within the ranks, among us little worker bees, we just really wanted to make some good art. People were really passionate about their jobs. And we really, it's one thing that I really miss and that I loved. And let me just state right off the top that, yeah, there were problems, and there were problems, with people, personalities, and all that stuff. But I loved working there. I loved it. And people were just so nice. I mean, everybody was just so into what they were doing. The effects animators loved animating effects. The background painters loved painting backgrounds. The animators loved animating the whatever else there was, which there was a whole lot of ink and paint gals and guys, because there were guys at that point in ink and paint. They loved doing what they did, and we loved it. But the aesthetic objectives, were just to make the best looking film possible. It was just to make it so good.
Now, The Little Mermaid, for some reason, ushered in the second golden age of Disney animation. What on earth happened? So did someone turn on the light? I mean, this followed 10 years or so many years of wandering in the wilderness with films like The Black Cauldron, which I admit I haven't seen, but I hear was awful and was typical of the horrible, like the dark ages of Disney animation in between in between whatever, Peter Pan or Cinderella or Snow White
after Walt died, everything kind of went off the rails for a while.
Why did it go off? Do you know why it went off the rails and how it got back on the rails?
Because Walt was the story guy.
Okay.
He was the one who knew what a good story was, and when he died, then they just didn't know what to do. I mean, they just didn't know what to do.
That's amazing. I mean,
they just didn't. There wasn't anybody there with really, really good story instincts. Walt was one of a kind. You couldn't replace him easily.
How hard is it to just take a fairy tale and tell the beginning, the middle, and the end and do it? How hard is that?
It's really hard.
Oh.
It's really hard.
Okay, so how'd they get their mojo back?
They did get Eisner and Katzenberg. He brought Katzenberg in, and Frank Wells, and Roy E. Disney, Walt's nephew. So he came back. He had left the company. He came back in, and basically he was the one who really saved feature animation. It was actually on the chopping block. That was a division that was on the chopping block. Michael Eisner had never seen a Disney film before he got to Disney. He didn't know what it was all about.
Okay, now...
He had never seen a Disney animated film that he can recall. He had never seen one. And they tried to turn him into kind of a Walter Cronkite / Walt Disney type guy. They put some cardigans on him and put him in some spots, some ad spots. Did not work at all. You could tell that he was just like straining to get out of this sweater and into a suit. But he could identify good talent, and he got Katzenberg in there. And Frank Wells was fabulous because he could say no to Michael Eisner, and Eisner would listen to him. They just were a really good combo. Of course, Wells died, unfortunately, in this crazy helicopter crash, and Katzenberg wanted to take his position, and anyway, blah, blah, blah. Katzenberg had good story instincts.
When you say good story...
go
ahead.
Well, and he knew, I don't know exactly who brought Alan Menken and Howard Ashman in. I'm not sure how they got in there. They knew one of those guys. One of those guys knew of, either Eisner or Katzenberg or Roy Disney. Somebody knew of those guys and brought them in,
how did Ashman and Menken make the movie take off? Were people wandering?
It was Howard Ashman.
Yeah.
Howard Ashman had very, very good story instincts. And he was the one who really did a lot of developing and really analyzed that story and would give suggestions as to, what we needed here, what you should take out over there. He really, really helped that film.
How is it that songwriters and bean counters and executives are the guys driving the story and not writers? What didn't someone write a script?
Yes, of course there was a script. I have to say, I'm not sure how organized the story department was at that time, because that was my first feature film, and I can tell you how things went a couple of years down the line, but on Mermaid, I don't know. I don't know how involved story was. I mean, I'm sure there was a story department, so obviously they were involved, but I don't know if I don't know how much of it I don't know who wrote it, actually. I don't know who wrote the script. I don't know who did that. But whoever did had a lot of help, had some really great input from Howard Ashman and from Katzenberg.
Okay, this is still mysterious to me, because Hollywood had great writers throughout the 50s and 60s and 70s. Why couldn't someone write a great Little Mermaid for Disney Studios?
I don't know if animation was even really on the radar at that point, because animation really was practically a dead art.
Well, it became a dead art because Walt died or something, as I understand what you're telling me.
Well, yeah. I mean, Walt died, and there wasn't anybody anywhere, who could really fill his shoes. There was TV, but that was TV. That wasn't film. And, at that point, it was Hanna-Barbera, and they were doing everything it was all limited animation, and
I don't know.
But my point is, I don't know if top Hollywood writing talent would be interested in going to animation at that time. I mean, they may have looked at it as this is a dying art. Why do I want to, get involved with that?
I guess so. Maybe.
I have no idea. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I think screenwriting didn't become a thing until the 70s or 80s maybe, or 80s, and it got crazy in the 90s. I think someone once told me, I think in the 90s there were more writers and actors in the town, but
in general
yes,
in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, screenwriting became nuts in the 90s, I think. Everyone... There was no one in America not writing a screenplay in the 90s, as far as I know. Okay, I want to come back to, it was, except for a few people problems, which are inevitable, it was, everyone liked each other. But I'll tell you, someone in that outfit once said to me, you would not believe the backstabbing and the dogs eating dogs to make little kids movies, little kids entertainment. So
there was backstabbing.